She was a promising high school student whose life was just beginning, until she was convicted of taking a life. Notorious woman number 6 is Amy Grossberg. In the spring of 1996, Amy Grossberg was a senior at Ramapo High School in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Fellow senior Brian Peterson had been her boyfriend since their junior year.
Amy Grossberg was certainly well-liked and popular in school. She was a sweet girl, she was into art, and she was just well-liked by her friends.
Brian, at the time, looked like Matt Damon. Good student, nice guy, warm heart, funny. He's the perfect child.
Then, Amy got pregnant.
To this day, nobody knows why Amy personally chose not to tell anybody about this pregnancy. She had very high goals and high expectations, and she tended to be a perfectionist that she felt that she was going to really disappoint a lot of people.
Grossberg graduated from high school. In the fall of 1996, she entered the University of Delaware. By then, Amy was 6 months along. Her boyfriend, Brian, attended college in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 3 hours away. The couple continued to hide Amy's pregnancy. Then, on November 12th, Brian got a phone call.
She went into labor and contacted him. He drove down from Gettysburg, which is a couple of hours away. There was apparently some discussion about going to a medical facility. She did not want to do that. They drove in his vehicle to a motel, signed into a room, and she had the baby in that room.
Brian, in a pure state of panic, nothing thought out, wrapped the baby in some kind of nearby garment. Went outside and saw a dumpster and placed the baby in the dumpster. Came back in the room and got her and took her back to her dorm.
She became very ill at her dorm, and ultimately she was taken to the hospital. At the hospital, she was looked at by the emergency room personnel, and they very quickly found out that she had just delivered a baby.
Early on the morning of November 13th, authorities discovered the baby's body in a trash bin in the hotel parking lot.
The detective himself walked into the dumpster and then found the baby with hundreds of pounds of garbage already dumped onto it during that 24-hour period.
An autopsy performed by the Delaware medical examiner found the baby was born alive. Amy Grossberg and Brian Peterson were both charged with first-degree murder.
The prosecutor in the case essentially announced pretty early on in that first 24 hours that they were going to seek the death penalty against these two kids.
Prosecutors are supposed to search for truth and do justice. To charge Amy Grossberg with the death penalty is an indication, in my judgment, of gross incompetence.
In retrospect, we were a little premature in making a charging decision that early. Part of the reason the decision was made to charge them was a concern about a flight risk.
The case stunned the upscale community of Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, and gained national attention.
This went from being a little local story to a story that had the New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, Washington Post, everybody flocking down to Delaware to cover the story.
They were prosecuting Amy Grossberg. They were deciding that she was guilty of murdering her child and bashing the skull of the newborn, which was alleged, but that didn't stop the media from reporting it.
There were people screaming death threats at him at that point in time. You ought to die, you baby killer type thing.
As the story made headlines, defense attorneys challenged the theory that the baby boy was born alive.
It was made clear to me that there was a stillborn birth and that the skull fractures on the baby were post-mortem, and so that what the prosecutor was putting out was wrong. When you have a stillborn, you cannot kill a stillborn, so there was no case.
We know that the baby was alive because the umbilical cord that was attached to the baby was healing, and that would indicate that the baby certainly was alive at the time it went into the bag.
As the trial date neared, Amy and Brian each came forward with their own version of events.
Brian at one point said that Amy allegedly said, "Get rid of it, get rid of it." That's a statement that the defense team would dispute till the ends of the earth.
Amy's lawyer claimed she was too sick to know what was going on.
Amy Grossberg was going through a full grand mal seizure, which is muscular rigidity. She's very sick, incoherent, non-responsive. Any notion that she was directing anything is a total fabrication.
On March 10, 1998, Brian Peterson pled guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter and agreed to testify against Amy.
Unfortunately for Amy, the truth hurt. So he turned on Amy by saying, okay, I'm going to tell what happened. If that's turning on somebody, then so be it. That's turning on somebody. I call telling the truth and doing what you're supposed to do.
But there would be no trial. Amy Grossberg struck a deal with prosecutors and also pled guilty to manslaughter.
It is something that allowed both of them to step up to the plate, admit their responsibility where they certainly were at fault, but yet did not pre-plan, premeditate, or intend to kill a baby.
On July 10th, Amy and Brian learned their fate.
Amy Grossberg received 30 months and Brian Peterson received 24 months of incarceration. And they both served the large preponderance of that time.
There was different opinions of whether it was a fair sentence or not, but I think most people felt like they definitely deserved jail time, and they're glad that they got jail time.
They were two frightened kids. Amy wouldn't go to anybody, and Brian was attempting to stand by her. Either one of them at any time could have said, look, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do the right thing and try to get some adult input. They didn't do that, and it's had a snowballing effect.
Brian and Amy served their time. Brian has since married and lives in Florida. Amy started a high-end custom greeting card company and lives with her parents. Just 6 months after the death of Amy and Brian's baby, a troubled teenager turned a joyous rite of passage into an unthinkable tragedy. Notorious woman number 5 is the prom mom, Melissa Drexler.
I know her as like a sweet, good girl.
Outwardly, 18-year-old Melissa Drexler seemed like any other senior at Lacey Township High School in New Jersey.
She attended various clubs, she was a good student, she had a boyfriend, she made plans to go to the prom, just like high school seniors do all across this country.
But Melissa had a big secret. She was pregnant.
Most teens who completely hide their pregnancy from everybody tend to be embarrassed or ashamed. So it might be a young woman who shouldn't have been having sex. It may be the partner that they chose with someone they absolutely shouldn't have been involved with.
I think it's pretty unbelievable and pretty amazing that Melissa Drexler carried a baby to full term without anybody finding out.
Melissa concealed her pregnancy, but she didn't exactly hide out at home. She even made plans for the prom. The big dance was scheduled on June 6, 1997.
She woke up that morning and her water broke. She continued with her day, she got ready for the prom, and driving to the prom, she was having contractions, and then when they actually arrived, she just excused herself and went to the restroom.
Around 7:45 p.m. that night, all alone in a bathroom stall, Melissa delivered a 6-pound, 6-ounce baby boy. According to published reports, Melissa cut the umbilical cord with the serrated edge of a sanitary napkin dispenser, wrapped the newborn in several plastic bags, and deposited the baby in the trash can. The new mom then went back to the dance.
Melissa Drexler's demeanor, which is what is so shocking and appalling to people, was as if nothing had happened. She came back to the prom, she danced, she ate a salad, she gave absolutely no evidence of having been through this ordeal, and it was business as usual.
The custodians who were regularly cleaning the area noticed that there was a large amount of blood. The custodians then examined the trash. That's when the infant was discovered. And that began to trigger the events which led to the conclusion that Melissa had given birth to a child in that bathroom.
EMTs were called. For 2 hours, they tried to resuscitate the baby, but he couldn't be revived.
The big question in this case was whether the baby was born dead or alive. And the autopsy revealed that the baby had air in its intestines. And according to the pathologist, that was an indication that the baby had been born alive and was later suffocated.
On June 25, 1997, Melissa Drexler was charged with murdering her newborn son.
Once we received the medical examiner's report, and he indicated that the child was born alive, and then we made the determination that murder should be charged.
Melissa's claim is that the pressure of hiding the baby, the disappointment her parents would feel, led to her suffocating the baby.
But this case never reached a jury.
And I was further aware that what I did would most certainly result in the death of the baby.
Ultimately, she pled guilty to the crime of aggravated manslaughter, which is the second most serious homicide crime in New Jersey. And she was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment for that crime.
It really sounds very similar to other cases of teens. They really believe they are doing the right thing for everyone, and they're just trying to hope this baby goes away.
Melissa Drexler was released from prison in November 2001 after serving 37 months. Coming up, a mother's cries, a mother's lies, the story that rocked the country.